Hey, what's going on? It is 12 noon on Wednesday, which means it's time for this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. My name is John Chrisman. This show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. What we're today is 2021 goals. So we're coming up on the end of the year, the end of 2020. Now, we still got a few weeks of 2020 left, don't get me wrong. But January 1st isn't that far away. Now, especially, we've got a lot of people right now signing up for our courses to get their real estate license starting in January. You can already tell what those people's goals are for the new year. Part of it, at least one of the first steps, one of the first things they're trying to do is get that real estate licensing process knocked out and out of the way. But then what about the goals beyond that? Let's say you do get your real estate license. Let's say January, you go take your pre-licensing course. And look, if you're wanting to take a course, we have live stream courses, instructor-led online virtual classrooms, scheduled instructor-led classes. Just like our classroom courses, you can access anywhere in the world, good for the entire state of Florida for your real estate license. And we've got one of those starting on January 4th. We've got a bunch of those starting in the month of January, days, evenings, mornings, you name it. But on January 4th, we'll have a 2-week class, and we could get you through this licensing course in 2 weeks. Now, you do still have to get your application approved with the state and pass your state exam, but you knock those things out and you'll have a real estate license. So now the real question becomes, what do you do with that real estate license? And what are the goals that you're setting in place, first and foremost, that are leading you to make this decision that you want to get a real estate license or start a real estate career? So for all the guys that are new to real estate and you want to really hit the ground running in 2021, whether you're brand new, just starting out, you're just taking the course and getting licensed, or you've already got your real estate license and you're really trying to ramp up business in 2021, we're going to talk today about doing some goal setting, some goal planning, some things you could work through specifically for your real estate business to help you better understand the income that you could generate in real estate, and more importantly, the actions that you need to take to achieve your income goals. So I'm really excited to bring this episode to you today. My name is John Chrisman, and you're watching Ask the Instructor.
You are watching Ask the Instructor. Absorb the knowledge. Become the expert.
Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. My name is John Chrisman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. So what we're talking about today are 2021 goals. And really what I want to kind of focus on today, in addition to just some basic goal setting principles, is really how to dial in. If you want to make this much income, if you want to get this much money out of your real estate career, out of your real estate business, out of selling real estate, what actions are necessary that you have to take. So that way you could go into 2021 not hoping that you achieve success, but knowing that you're going to achieve success if you perform the actions that you've calculated here. Now, let's just get into some goal planning specifics. Number one, making them specific. Your goal should be specific. It shouldn't be that you just want to do something in real estate or that you want to sign up for a class for real estate. Notice how general these things sound. Without specific goals, you will often lack the specific actions that are necessary to accomplish the greater goals that you are really trying to achieve. So you've got to name those goals. You got to name your targets from the beginning. And that's why, even if you're not ready to commit to your 2021 goals yet, that's why we're talking to them today. Here we are on December 16th. So, we're only halfway through December. We still have half of December to go, but watch how quickly this next half of this month will go by and how quickly January 1st will be here. And now going through this time, you want to be thinking, how do I make my goals specific? Not just that you want to get a real estate license if you don't have a real estate license yet, but what are the specific goals that you're trying to accomplish through having that real estate license? What are the reasons why? Income, I'm sure there is some part of you getting your real estate license that is you want to achieve a certain amount of income. You want to make some sort of money, whether you're doing this on the side part-time or you're doing real estate full-time. you probably want some sort of income, so that's part of the equation. But then another part of the equation is the time. Now, usually a lot of people are looking to come to real estate because they want freedom when it comes to the time. Now, here's what freedom means when it comes to time. Freedom doesn't necessarily mean that you get time, because you already have time, but what you don't have, potentially, is control over that time. And there's always going to be things that are outside of our control, including how we spend certain time. But then there's a lot of times where we could have control of our time, but we don't. And when we don't have control over our time, it adds layers of chaos and difficulty that just makes our lives get in the way of accomplishing goals. So we want to come up with specific goals of the income it is that we want to generate, but then also the time that we're going to need to invest to accomplish these objectives. Because it's one thing to want the money that comes from it. It's another thing to know the actions that are required and necessary, because if you really are truly looking for freedom of your time, to be able to control your time, I'm sure it's not because you want to just spend all your time working for yourself. Now, that might be, at times, you might be a great boss to yourself. I like working for myself. I consider myself a pretty good boss at sometimes. But at the same time, you'll probably want to take maybe a vacation, or being able to, just having the flexibility where you can control this. Now, when you're first starting out, you might not have that control. You're probably not going to have that control. Matter of fact, you're going to need to invest more time at the beginning of your real estate career so that you can afford to have that time off. Now, you go work at some sort of employee type of job. Yes, it's written out for you. It's laid out for you in a policy manual or some job offer letter or something like that that spells out, if you work this much, we will give you this much time off. In real estate, you're in control. So you only have rules like that if you set rules like that for yourself. So you ultimately now have control over your time, but what's important is that you direct that time that you do have control over towards the actions that are going to get you closest to this income the fastest. Now, if you don't have a real estate license yet, that means getting through the course and passing your state exam. If you haven't passed the course yet, you need to get through the course, because without that FREC required pre-licensing course, you're not going to be able to take the state exam. And without the state exam, you don't have a license. And without a license, you can't earn income through having a real estate license, because that would be illegal. So, again, getting back to what actions, and this is the next thing and this is why specifics are important, is it's going to help you prioritize. It'll help you figure out what's important right now. Because as I just said, if you don't finish the course, nothing else matters after that. It doesn't matter how many clients you potentially have. It doesn't matter how many clients you could have. It doesn't matter what business model ideas it is that you have. You need to have the license to be able to do this legally. So again, getting back to prioritization is using that time that you have right now to get you closest to earning income. You're not going to be able to earn any income. There's a barrier here until you pass that exam. And that's why we stress our whole pass first try strategy and all of our study tools, so that way you can move as quickly and seamlessly through that licensing process as possible. Because the faster you move through the licensing process, the faster you can start making money with your real estate license. So you need to make your goals specific. If you want to buy a car, maybe that's something. Maybe you want a new car. I did this goal setting exercise with somebody back at the beginning of this year. I did it with a lot of people, but one person in particular, she had told me that, hey, and this was a couple months ago, it's like, hey, when I set these goals at the beginning of the year, one of the goals I set was to get a new car. And I didn't believe I was going to be able to do that this year, but I did. That's the power of simply setting the goal. And writing it down really is another important part of this as well. Not only does that give you something to look back at, but it also, it now makes it real. It now puts it into existence, even if it's just on paper. It's a lot of stuff that goes on up here. And if we keep it up here, it doesn't always make it out here. So you want to make your goals specific. And what you also want to do is give yourself deadlines. Because if you don't give yourself a deadline, you'll find yourself procrastinating, looking for excuses, things like that. So figure out some sort of deadline, and that deadline is going to be essential to the next steps because this is how we split it up. So let's assume that you have gotten your real estate license, so you get into some more particular planning for your real estate business. So let's assume you've got your real estate license now, so you do this legally, and you want to figure out, okay, if I want to make X dollars, how many houses do I need to sell? And really the more important question of how many appointments do I have, how many contracts do I need, how many contacts, how many leads do I need, and how many do I need to be generating on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Now that sounds like a lot. And if you haven't taken our post-licensing course yet, your post-licensing course is required before your first renewal. But it's not only a requirement, it's a gift of information that teaches you things such as business planning. So that way you could work up these numbers, even if you don't like math. This is math about money. And even if you don't like math, everybody likes math about money usually, as long as it's not too complicated. But again, this math isn't complicated. So we want to figure out how many houses we need to sell if we want to earn a certain amount of income. Now, what type of income are we looking for? You might be wanting to earn $100,000 in income. Or, maybe your goal is that you just want to sell one house. One of the things now everybody is different. That's the beauty of real estate, is it's so flexible. It really allows you to create your own destiny, to really design your business from the ground. Now, I'm not here to stop you and say, oh no, that's too big, that's unrealistic, because there's really no limit to how much money you can make in real estate. Let's even take this largest number of $250,000 real quick. And this is something I learned early on. One of the first self-help development books I ever read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. I know a lot of you guys have probably some of his books as well. But one of the most fundamental things that I learned from that book that I still hold with me to this day is, rather than asking, is that possible? Instead, ask yourself, how is it possible? Because if we ask the question, is that possible, we're sitting on the fence of 50-50, if we can do it or we can't do it. Whereas if we ask the question instead of how is that possible, failure is no longer an option. We're simply looking at this from the perspective of how do we make this work? And now notice how that's going to lead to much deeper thinking and deeper questions and answers than just simply the surface level question of whether or not you think this is doable. If you're a new agent in your first year, I'll be the first one to tell you this probably isn't going to be your first year. Now I say probably because is it possible? Absolutely. Now again, getting back to the more important question of how is it possible? How is it possible that you get $250,000 of commission money? Is that even possible? Could you even make that much money over your entire real estate career, let alone just 1 year? Well, let's do the math. Let's ask that question that good old Rich Dad taught us of how is that possible? So if we want $250,000 of gross commission income, meaning before we have any other expenses in our business, expenses part of that next and planning for that, again, that varies depending on how you run your business, the size, the scale of your business, and so on and so forth. But let's just say, hey, you want $250,000 of gross commission income coming in. And let's say that you on average charge a 3% commission rate. Now 3%, when we're going to divide this out here, usually if you want to put this in your calculator, you could use those percentage keys if you're familiar with those. However, I usually just advise the good old-fashioned little soupy lines there, move the decimal place over. So when we when we divide, I should say, because we're not finding 3% of 250,000, we're finding what 250,000 is 3% of. So how much dollar value of homes we have to sell at a 3% commission to get $250,000 of gross commission income. And you could pick whatever number it is that you want. I know, again, with that $250,000, if you're your first year in real estate, that is a little unrealistic. I'm not going to stop you from reaching for the stars, but that is definitely a stretch goal, I would say here. But let's just see how much of a stretch it is. It's going to be a lot of real estate, but let's see exactly how much it is. So $250,000 gross commission income. Divide that by 3%, and it's only about $8.3 million. You guys ever seen that show $1 Million Listing? This is a cheap house on that show. Now look, I know that's a TV show in New York City and so on and so forth. And I'll be honest, if you're practicing real estate in Florida, there's not nearly as many opportunities as there are in a place like, say, New York City or Los Angeles or some of these very, very exorbitantly priced real estate. But even though it's not as common for us to have houses, and look, you get down to South Florida, and look, even here in Tampa, we've got Derek Jeter's house just went on the market like a month or so ago for like $29 million. You only need to sell a third of Derek Jeter's house to hit that $250,000. Now, how many houses is this? How many houses is this of average houses? Again, let's be realistic here, because when you're doing your goal setting and planning, it is good to reach for the stars, but it is also important to stay rooted in what's real and what's realistic and what actually is possible. So an average price property in Hillsborough County. So right now I'm speaking to you live from Tampa, and we're in Hillsborough County. And in Hillsborough County, it's about $333,000 for an average priced home. So I want to find out how many average price homes we're going to need to sell to hit that $8.3 million. So we're going to divide this $8.3 million by $333,000. And that number might have updated for the average price. Last time I checked it, it's about $833 million. And that comes out to be 25 homes, 25 sales. And really, actually, we're going to go a little technical here. We're not going to call these sales. We're just going to call them sides. Because every sale has two sides. It has a buying side and a selling side. If you get both of those sides, if you represent the buyer and the seller, which is 100% legal in Florida through a transaction broker relationship, which is the default relationship. Again, not to get too technical with you. If you haven't taken the pre-licensing course yet, I'm probably talking way over your head using all these words for it. This is all stuff you learn about right in the transaction, the broker's relationship section about the transaction broker relationship. But getting back to the money, because I know that's what you really want to talk about here. 25 transaction sides, that could be made by selling only 13 houses. You could sell 13 houses if you represent the buyer and seller on both of those. You only need to sell 13 houses. And really on one of those, you don't even have to represent both sides. You just have to pick up that extra 25th side. Now, is that doable? Again, in your first year, to have 25 transactions closing, because the reality is you're normally in most transactions not going to represent both the buyer and the seller. Usually you're representing half of the sale, and it's more when you get lucky or when you're really working hard. You're doing whatever it is that's getting you that other side of the transaction as well, but it's typical that you work with one side of the sale. So about 25 transactions, maybe a few less if you double end a couple of your transactions there. But this equates to about 2 sales a month. Is it possible for you to sell 2 properties a month? Absolutely. In your first month, you're probably not going to sell 2 properties in your first month, or maybe even your second month, or maybe even your third month, because there's also this closing window that goes on from the date that it goes under contract or from it when it actually closes. I see the importance of planning this out and understanding this. And let's take a step down off of the clouds here with this $250,000 number, and let's really just break this down into, okay, one of these transactions, I get one of these transactions, I can already kind of see the bigger picture there. That's what that math is meant to really kind of show you, this bigger picture. And we'll pick a more realistic number in a second rather than that 250,000. Maybe if you're a couple years into this and you're really trying to scale your business, that's where you're looking to get up to that $250,000 in gross commission income, or maybe that is your first year. Again, just because that's not typical or average, I'm not here to say you can't do that, because that's the magic of real estate. You can do that. It might not be typical, it might not be average, but if you're not typical and you're not average, you could easily smash through those typical and average barriers in real estate. There's no approval you need of some sort of superior to promote you for you to make more money in real estate. You just need more customers to approve of you, more customers to want to do business with you, because you get paid on a transactional basis. The more properties you sell, the more money you make. And being that in most relationships, in most brokerages, you're going to be an independent contractor, you're literally basically going to be your own business that's supported by the brokerage. So you're your own business, and you're under the registration of your brokerage that's there to make sure you do everything legal and help support your real estate business. But ultimately, you are the decider of what you're doing with this. So if, let's say you're not trying to make $250,000 in a year, you're maybe just trying to make a little extra money on the side. And if you're starting out in real estate, that's usually what I'd recommend, to start out in real estate part-time so you can start to scale into it. Because if you go from doing a little bit of real estate to doing more real estate, then you could easily go from doing more real estate to doing even more real estate, because you're learning how to scale. Being able to juggle a real estate career with what you're currently doing is definitely going to challenge you, but it's a challenge that will ask you to rise to the occasion. It's a challenge that if you choose to partake in it, if you choose to go the long road, to try to, again, balance and juggle what you're currently doing with now also adding real estate into it, it could be very rewarding if you're patient enough and persistent enough to stick around and see it through. So let's say your goal is to sell one house, and let's say a commission of about $5,000. Now, the commission is calculated by the sale price times the commission rate, but then you also have commission splits with your broker, there's taxes, there's all kinds of things like that also factor in as additional expenses with this. So rather than, let's say, that average price home of $333,000 at 3% is $10,000, let's be conservative, again, to maybe overestimate a little bit, to make our planning stacked for us to where it really is there to help us work a little bit harder. That's one of the things also I wanted to mention at the beginning, we should have talked about, is when you're setting your goals. So this $5,000 number, this is why I put that number on the board originally. If your goal is to get $5,000, sell one house, let's call that $5,000, because maybe it's not an average price home, maybe it's a little less than that, or maybe once we factor in the expenses and so on and so forth, but let's just call it $5,000. Now, $5,000, that's a good chunk of change. But let me ask you this, is that going to motivate you? Because if your goal for 2021 is one transaction, $5,000, well, I mean, if we break that down across 12 months here, pull out our handy-dandy calculator here, $5,000 across 12 months, that's only an extra $416 a month. Okay, well, on a paycheck basis, well, most people usually get paid every other week, so we divide that now by 2, and it's a $208 raise. So if you're getting paid every 2 weeks, you making an extra $5,000 for the year is the equivalent of an extra $416 a month, which is the equivalent of an extra $208 a pay period, which is extra money. And especially if it doesn't take you much work, otherwise, especially once you get past the real estate licensing process, this might be good. But could you do more? As a part-time agent? Absolutely. Now, as a part-time agent, it's easy to get wrapped up in all the reasons why you shouldn't be able to be successful, because there's a whole list of them, and you probably already got some of them in mind. If you've been thinking about starting in real estate and you haven't yet, there's that list that you have of all the reasons why you think you might not be successful. And if you don't have that list, well, what are you waiting for? Because obviously you think you'll be successful at this here. But for the rest of us, you probably have that list of apprehensions, of things that you worry about, of whether or not you'll be able to achieve some success in real estate. And when you look at this as, okay, it's an extra $200 a pay period, an extra $104 a week. Don't get me wrong, an extra $100 a week is nice. But at the end of the year, that extra $5,000, is it really going to be that much noticeable? So we want to have goals that give us some motivation. And if you're a person afraid of setting a goal that you're not going to meet, don't worry about that. Goals that you fall short of are usually more worthy goals than goals that you could easily accomplish. This is pretty easy to accomplish, but in your head, in your mind, you'll make it out to be an impossible task because you've never done it before. If you've never done this before, this is going to seem like an impossible task despite how easy it is. So rather than just setting, this goal of, I'll sell one property, if I can do one property, that's good. If this is something you're really considering, if this is something that you're really wanting to make some career out of, or potentially, and that might be why you're saying, I just want to sell one house, because maybe you're on the fence about real estate. Maybe it's not even whether or not you think you can do it, but whether you want to do it. Because maybe you don't like what you're doing right now, and maybe you didn't like what you're doing before that, and maybe you didn't like what you were doing before that either, and so you've been through these things that you don't like doing, and you're wondering if real estate is just going to be another one of those things. And it could be. Or maybe real estate is different. Maybe it works a little bit different than the other ways you've made money before. Maybe there's a little bit more opportunity. Maybe there's a little bit more cooperation even amongst your competition. Because in real estate, even the agents we compete with every single day, we cooperate with every single day. That's a huge proponent of the multiple listing services, the cooperation between sales associates and brokers at different brokerages to sell the same real estate. And that's what makes it so easy for us to sell properties, is we don't have to have our own listings. We leverage that MLS cooperative system with all the other brokers in the market so that we all pool our listings and share our commissions ultimately. And that's how we talk about transaction sides and all kinds of things like that you'll learn about even in your pre-licensing course, and you'll go in more in depth of in your post-licensing. But let's say that rather than just, again, one goal, one house as your goal, let's turn up the stakes a little bit. Let's say $20,000. Maybe that's your number. Maybe it's not. Well, let's see if $20,000 sounds good. Let's do this. Let's make the math a little easier on us here. Let's say $24,000. $24,000 in a year. We'll find it. We'll figure out how many houses that is in a minute. Let's start with the money, because you probably already know how much more money it is that you want, or you're budgeting for this, you're planning for this, and if you're not, you start picking number. That's the essence of the goal planning and goal setting, is you're going through back and forth, working through these numbers, dialing in your plan of how much money it is that you want to make and how it is you go about doing that. So let's say it's $24,000. Well, let's see if that's even a formidable number. Across 12 months, now we're talking $2,000 a month. If we're talking about you adding a part-time job, I don't know how much it is you would specifically make if you're out there working a part-time job. Let's say $15. They just passed that law to raise minimum wage here to $15 in a couple of years. So if you're not making $15 yet, you probably will be in a couple of years, or maybe you'd make more than this. Again, do this math based on your numbers here. But $2,000 a month across for $15, that's 133 hours, which across 4 weeks, that's 33 hours a week. So $2,000 at that $15 an hour number, that's basically a full-time job almost. So that I would say would be money that maybe might get you more excited. Look, if $2,000 a month doesn't get you excited, what number does? Is it $3,000 a month? Because if ultimately your goal is $3,000 a month across 12 months, that would mean that would be $36,000 for the year. And let's say you pick this as your number. You're like, okay, this. I want to do this as a part-time agent. Is that possible? Absolutely. Is it a high goal? Not really. Not even really. Is it going to be difficult to achieve? Yes. If this is your first year in real estate, if you're brand new to real estate, if you've never done this before, it's always going to be the most difficult in the beginning. But here's the good news. It gets easier. Every transaction you get under your belt, every client you have, every person you have that hangs up on you even, those people hanging up on you are building you into a stronger character, a stronger salesperson, having a stronger will, better experience, a better skill set. Every action that you take, even when you fail, even when you face adversity and obstacles that you seem like you might not be able to overcome, it's building you into a better real estate professional, which is going to make this easier every single day. So if that's your goal there, $36,000. Definitely a big step down from $250,000. And again, maybe you just want the $24,000, maybe you're just going for $10,000. Do the math, because the goals are most effective when they're your goals. If I'm up here just telling you, oh, you need to make this much money, that's not real for you. That's just some person on the internet telling you to make this much money. You want to make this real, because the more real it is, the more it'll mean to you. And the more that it means to you, the more likely you're going to actually make it happen. So if $36,000 is the commission that you want to score for the year in gross commission income again, let's say again that's a 3% commission. Now commission rates are negotiable, so maybe you negotiate a 3% rate, maybe you negotiate 4%, maybe you negotiate 2%. As you perform your real estate business, and this is one of the main things we teach in post-licensing about business planning, is as your business evolves and adapts, so will your numbers and your metrics. The ratio, your close rate of how many clients you talk to versus how many you actually sell a house to. As you become more skilled and a better professional and you understand more opportunities to help people achieve home ownership and to navigate through transactions, you'll increase your close ratio. Those numbers will change and you'll have to redo this math here. So at 3%, what is this at 3%? We're going to take a quick commercial break. Stick with us. We'll be back in 30 seconds. I'm John Christmer. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
The most powerful tool to study for your real estate exam is the Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate. We've used our years of experience in preparing students for the Florida real estate exam to bring you the most powerful exam study tool available. In the Question Simulator, you'll be able to go directly to a particular unit so you can focus on the sections where you need the most practice. We have also included the percentages of each unit so you know which units are the most important for your real estate exam. Every question will immediately give you detailed feedback, which is almost always more important than the question or the answer themselves. After completing all the questions in a particular unit, you can go through question by question and review any that you've gotten wrong. You could also print out a report at the end of each quiz. The Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate is 100% mobile compatible, so you can practice with test questions anywhere you have your phone with you. Enroll now at questionsimulator.com and get ready to pass your exam.
Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Christman. The show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here every single Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern Time, to help you understand how to grow your real estate business through understanding the technical side of real estate. So what we left with before that is, let's say you're trying to make $36,000 a year and you're trying to do it part-time, and your average commission rate is 3%. How much real estate do you need to sell to get $36,000 in gross commission income? Well, we take that $36,000 in our calculator here. We're going to divide by 3%, which again in our calculator would be 0.03. Now you're going to have to be $1 million producer. You're going to have to sell over $1 million in real estate if you want to make $36,000 at 3% commission, but only $1.2 million. Now, can you do that? Can you sell $1 million in real estate? Well, what does that mean? Because million sounds like an intimidating number. We all want to be a millionaire or a billionaire or a trillionaire or some sort of heir at the end of it. And if you're not one of those yet, this might seem like a lot. And even if you have maybe achieved millionaire status at one point in your life, that might still seem like a lot to sell millions of dollars in real estate. But how much is it really? Well, let's again take the average price home of about $333,000. So an average price home of $333,000. How many of these homes? And now when you start to see this math here, you're going to realize that, well, this isn't that many homes here. So $1.2 million divided by $333,000 is 3.6 homes, or again, transaction size. Because this could be done in as little as 2 property sales if you represent the buyer and the seller. So 3.6. Meaning that, well, we got to round up because obviously we can't sell 0.6 of a home. So we want to try to sell 4 homes. If you could sell 4 average priced homes at a 3% commission, you'll end up with $36,000 of gross commission income. Now, again, is that possible doing this part-time? You probably know what my answer is going to be on this, but let's do the math to back it up. So we want to sell 4 houses in a year. And on top of that, we're doing this part-time. So we can't even, just quit our day job in real estate, because if that's the case, well, if you're only selling 4 houses, you're showing a lot more potential where you could if you're working on this every week is unavailable, and you factor in sleeping and family and kids and all kinds of other time like that, and you might only have maybe 4 or 5 hours, maybe not even in a day. Maybe you only have 2 hours in a day to dedicate to your real estate business. And if you only have 2 hours a day to dedicate to your real estate business, can you have a real estate business? Again, you're asking the wrong questions. You want to ask the questions, not can you, but how do you? How do you sell 4 houses? How do you sell, remember, be specific. How do you sell 4 houses, workers a night? And maybe even drop the only out of that, because that only implies that you're not going to be able to do it because you're only working 2 hours a night. Look, if you work 2 hours a night or a day or whatever it is you could fit in 2 hours for your real estate business, you could build a successful real estate business, but you need to make those 2 hours a day count. And if you don't have a clear direction and a clear strategy and a clear understanding of what you're trying to do with your real estate business, whatever hours it is that you're spending won't count. Because when you don't have direction, think of the last time you went to the grocery store, and a new grocery store. The last time you went to a new Publix or a new Winn-Dixie or some store you don't normally shop at, and it had a different layout. Even these Publixes, when they're usually the same, they always got little things snuck around, hidden in little different places, keep us on our toes. Now, if we don't know where the item is that we want to find, and we just go looking for it, we're probably just going to go and weed and hope we find what we're looking for. And in that process, what's going to happen? What does Publix count on when you go wander through their aisles at the store? They count on you, ooh, picking up this, ooh, picking up a little of that. Oh, look at this looks good. Oh, this looks good. That's what's going to happen to your business if your business gets distracted by all the bright, shiny objects. They're going to be on your way, on your path to achieving the objectives that you ultimately want to achieve. Now, rather than wandering the Publix, what if I could tell you that rather than just wandering the store, you could just go directly to that item? But here's the thing, you got to know where that item is. Again, you got to have direction, you got to have clarity, you got to have understanding of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And again, make it the more specifics you have, the better you'll understand what actions you need to take. So again, 4 houses in 2 hours a night, or maybe it's only an hour a night, or again, whatever the numbers are, just do the math, figure out what you've got to do, and make the plan to make it work, and then stick with it. You do that, it's not if you'll be successful, it's when you'll be successful. So 4 homes in 1 year, that's 1 every 3 months. 1 every 3 months, 1 every 90 days. Now, a typical contract, being under contract to closing, you're usually looking at, if it's financing, probably, we'll say 30 to 90 days. Depending on how much it gets backed up or how quickly things could get pushed through. And if you're talking about a cash buyer, it might even be less than 30 days that from going under contract to getting into a sale. Now, depending on whether you're working with a seller or a buyer, there'll be other times and things like that factored in. Really, when we're going through this today, we're just going through the super surface level and simple. And again, in your post-licensing course, that's where you get more into building a detailed plan about your business and how you want to achieve success in real estate. But knowing these numbers here, so let's say it's going to take us maybe 3 months to get a deal. Here's another stat you want to throw in there too. Maybe only 50% of your deals actually result in business. Maybe 50% of your contracts fall through. That might be a lot, or maybe that's not a lot because you're just barely hanging on to these contracts. Again, everybody's business is different. What you want to do is make some good estimations if you haven't done any business yet, but then as you start to do business and you start to acquire these stats, you keep track of how well you're doing in your business so you can know what areas you need to focus on to improve. So if your sales cycle on that is 30 to 90 days, and you want to sell one house every 90 days and half of your contracts fall through, you can kind of see here how we're starting a word problem here of what we're going to be talking about, of basically building this all out like this here. So if we're trying to accomplish this in 30 to 90 days, in basically 1 to 3 months, and half are going to fall through, well, if we need one of these to actually close, we're going to need at least 2 contacts. We're going to need 2 contacts to get to 1 closing. 2 contacts lead to 1 closing. And if we want to get this every 90 days, that means we need to be working in at least 2 potential deals, 2 potential contracts every 90 days. So if we need 4 homes and only half of our contracts closed, we're then going to need 8 contracts. Now, how many clients do we need to get to 8 contracts? Maybe we need 16 clients. Maybe we need 32 clients. Maybe we need 64 clients. Depending on where you're getting these leads from, how well your skills are, that'll change the numbers. Again, what's important is you're keeping track of your business, you understand the metrics, and that way you could focus on dialing this in and scaling your business to whatever level it is that you want. Because again, getting back to that freedom and that control, once you understand this, and you've got your finger on the pulse for all of these numbers here, that's when you really understand your business and you can direct and control your business and basically turn it on and off. To ramp up the money printer, to turn it down if you want to take a little break, and really you understand it at a much deeper level. And this is not only something you want to do to grow your business, but also something that you want to do on a daily basis starting out your business. Even when these numbers are small, that's when it's even more important, because you're trying to gain some initial momentum. You get that initial momentum going, you get that rolling, that's when you start to really accomplish some powerful things. So look, if you want to find out more about business planning, check out our website, tampaschool.com, and search business planning. We've done a bunch of episodes of State of Real Estate and Ask the Instructor before on business planning. It's really important to, again, achieving success in real estate. Can you do it without business planning? Definitely, but having that plan of action, remember, you don't want to just be wandering the grocery store looking for what you're looking for. You want to get in and get out as quickly and easily as possible and accomplish those goals. Because you do that over and over and over again, whatever the goals are that you set, you'll just knock them out like that. But it takes having the specific actions and steps and really understanding this and keeping track of this. So if you want to really write up a more detailed business plan, make sure you enroll in our post-licensing course. Now, if you don't have your real estate license yet, you probably want to wait until you get your real estate license, because this course is required for your first renewal. You'll lose your real estate license if you don't complete this course, and it teaches you these valuable skills. So you want to take this as soon as you get your real estate license. So if you need to take that course, or you need to get enrolled to take your pre-licensing course just to get the real estate license, again, check us out online at tampaschool.com or call us up at 813-333-2676. Again, that's 813-333-2676. It's about all the time we've got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.
The most powerful tool to study for your real estate exam is the Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate. We've used our years of experience in preparing students for the Florida real estate exam to bring you the most powerful exam study tool available. In the Question Simulator, you'll be able to go directly to a particular unit so you can focus on the sections where you need the most practice. We have also included the percentages of each unit so you know which units are the most important for your real estate exam. Every question will immediately give you detailed feedback, which is almost always more important than the question or the answer themselves. After completing all the questions in a particular unit, you can go through question by question and review any that you've gotten wrong. You could also print out a report at the end of each quiz. The Question Simulator from Tampa School of Real Estate is 100% mobile compatible, so you can practice with test questions anywhere you have your phone with you. Enroll now at questionsimulator.com and get ready to pass your exam.